truth, logic, common sense, that gut feeling, and yes, even a little psychoanalysis, as we are once again together, you and I, to discuss Lolo. What is it? The echoes of two cases. I started out talking about Chad Daybell. Let's get to Lolo now. Let's get to the hussy. She's in prison for the rest of her life. Past statements? What's that going to do anything for her? She is OUT outright. Well, Archie has filed an appeal, and obviously he's got these grounds listed, and so we have to look, don't we, to see what an appellate court would do with Lolo's past statements, huh? Because they're going to look at the whole record, and I guarantee you, Lori's allocution is going to be picked apart by the appellate court as they decide whether or not she deserves another trial. We know the reasons why Archie has filed for appeals reasons. If you don't know, you can go to East Idaho News. They break it down. But let me just kind of just get you up to speed a little bit. One of the reasons that Archie lists is whether District Judge Stephen Boyce erred in finding Daybell competent for trial after spending 10 months in a mental hospital, and also whether Boyce erred in denying Archie's request to send Daybell back to the mental hospital rather than proceeding with trial. There's other ones too, whether her speedy trial rights were violated. You've got this 404B stuff. By the way, 404B stuff was also put in an appeal for Alex Murdahl there. It's not going to fly. Also, whether Judge Boyce abused his discretion. And finally, Archie saying he wants out of this appellate stuff. He wants Lori to be able to be assigned appellate lawyers to move her forward on her appeals. I don't blame him, but the word is that Archie will probably be her attorney in Arizona. Even though there's a jurisdictional thing going on there, I've read several things that these legal experts, they think that he will go on to represent her in Arizona. But let's get back to these past statements of Lolo as it relates to appeals, okay? And you have to kind of put yourself there and say, well, these appellate judges, they're going to look at the whole record. They're most definitely going to look at her allocution, because it's really the only time since she's been arrested that she really has said anything other than to say there have been a few phone calls that were played in her trial. That will also be something that will absolutely open the ears of these appellate judges. But Lori's allocution is part of the record that an appellate court will look at. Would an appellate court look at her past statement, i.e. her allocution, and say, you know what, those two things that Archie listed about her being put in the mental health facility, whether is that an appellate issue or whether or not she should have been taken back there. These appellate judges are going to look at that, and they're going to look at her allocution, y'all. Does her allocution line up with her actions that were proven in her trial, y'all? These judges are going to look at that. This is important in terms of her appeals because, they've already diagnosed her with this bullshit religiosity, narcissistic tendencies, these personality disorder crap. But let's just look at it. Let's look at it from a point of view, and I'm not saying I know the mind of an appellate judge, but they're going to say, why didn't she? Why didn't she bring up the zombies that she was bringing up through the whole time she was behaving the way she was up to the murder of her children? Why isn't she bringing that up in her allocution? Why isn't she bringing up Chad Daybell? If she is such a nut job and should have been sent back to the freaking damn nut house, then why isn't she bringing up Chad? And why is it in her allocution that she's bringing up stuff that she's never brought up? There's no evidence that she's ever said these things to Melanie Gibb or anyone else in in-home meetings or anything. We're talking about the whole transcript of Lori's trial. There was no evidence of half the shit she talked about in her allocution. And an appellate judge does have common sense when they lay that up against these appeal reasons of whether she should have went back to the mental health facility or not, right? So past statements and echoes. We know Jody Hillebrand has made a damning statement about those children being a danger to other children. It's going to bite her ass real good. But I want to go over this because I haven't really went down it at all. And that was Lori's allocution, just to prove a point. Lori starts off, y'all, it's sickening, it's disgusting. She said, I would like to start by quoting John from the New Testament in the Bible. In John chapter 8, verses 7, Jesus says, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Then in the first verse of chapter 15, Jesus says, ye judge after the flesh, I judge no man, and yet if I judge, my judgment is true. What would a judge think about that? This woman is a walking, talking judgment on every damn body, including her murdered children. That's all she did was judge her children. And here she is bringing this up. Give me a break. If you wasn't on her side and wanted to lift her up and make her seem like she was a freaking goddess and powerful, you were labeled a dark Cain. We're talking about light and dark scales here. Nothing is more judgmental than what Lori and Chad did. But it's just the hypocrisy that this woman is spewing out. Jesus knows me, and Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy. Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medication happen, folks. This woman, she's saying this stuff in her allocution, and an appellate judge is going to look at this. Religiosity. I mean, the fact that someone believes so heavily in something that she should have been put back in a mental health institute. Would a judge even see that? Because here's the bottom line, y'all. She never once talked about any of this particular stuff about Jesus knows the truth of what happened here or anything at all. There is no testimony. She didn't give any testimony of that. In her allocution, she makes these statements. But again, look at her behavior throughout the whole 2018, 2019, 2020. Think about it. I have a different perspective in life because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. And does she ever threw out anything in text messages? Did she tell Phoebe there, Melanie Gibb? Did she tell anyone in the In My Home meeting about this thing that happened to her? No, this is coming off the top of her damn head now in her allocution. She never talks about this to anybody. This is something new that she's brought up. And any appellate court judge is going to look at her allocution and say, well, where is that in the record? Did she ever talk about this really divine thing that happened to her? Is this what she shared with others, y'all? Is there any evidence of that at all? Because of her experiences, because of this experience, says Lori, I have access to heaven and the spirit world. Okay, I have said this more than once. I think I said it once on Cresh's channel. This woman wants to seem crazy. She's coming up with new shit now. But the bottom line is that she knows that Archie is going to file that she should have been put back in the mental hospital. And also, what is it? You can't have it both ways. 1 minute Archie is saying one of the reasons for an appeal is her being put in there in the first place. And then the other one is that she should have been put back. Which one is it? Which one is it? She understands how she has to sound in her allocution. Obviously, y'all know throughout all of it, it was one freaking excuse after another, but none of it lined up with what her and Chad were talking about on text message. None of it lined up with her voice on secret recordings or anything like that. She never brought up any of this shit. I know that she is all very happy and extremely busy, says Lori about her friend Tammy. Does she ever say anything good about Tammy Daybell? Is there any evidence at all through Lori's trial at all? I know how wonderful heaven is, and I'm homesick for it every single day. I know we all lived in heaven before we were born on earth, and we were all adult spirits in the heavenly realm. We choose to come to earth as mortals, and folks, that's not considered crazy. People believe a lot of shit. But an appellate judge is going to say, you know what? There are all kinds of spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs out here. She can believe whatever the hell she wants. That doesn't make her crazy. It's when you step forward from the belief and start doing stuff. And by the way, if she was in heaven before she got here, like she says, what? She come down from heaven to murder people? Give me a break. I do not fear death, but I look forward to it. I did not want to return to my body, and I was out of it even though my son Kobe, who adored more than anything, was only 6 years old at the time, and I was about to give birth to this new baby girl that I wanted so badly. She wanted Tylee so badly that she ends up murdering her. This is something that I can assume she has thought about for quite some time, sitting in jail, about how she's going to make herself look better and maybe throw a little red meat to all these crazy ass people out here that want to continue to believe in her bullshit. I was a young mother, and you would think I wouldn't want to leave my children, but as I stood in heaven, I didn't want to go back. I thought they would be fine without me because I was peaceful and I was happy and I was at home. And if this really happened and she comes here to earth, why in the hell? If she had that experience and she knew what it felt like, why would she go on to do all the evil she did? It's all a crock of shit. Then I was shown how it would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body. So is she saying that she was shown that she was supposed to take JJ and Tylee out along with Tammy, Charles Vallow, perhaps Joseph Ryan? Oh, she wanted to leave heaven so she could murder all these people? Give me a break. Tylee suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Tylee in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain. Folks, why isn't she bringing up? Tylee, she had an evil entity enter into her. It was a zombie. I watched the whole thing. Nothing that her and Chad were euphorically, sexually giving each other back and forth about the demise of these children is showing up in her allocution. All she wants to talk about is an excuse for, well, Tylee she had pancreatitis, so I just put her out of her misery. Well, where's the zombies? Where the hell is all this talk? That has been proven in court. Evidence proven in court. Where is it through any of this allocution? It's nowhere to be found, and an appellate judge will look at that and say she is putting on an act. Because all the evidence points in a way that makes it look like her and Chad were trying to get rid of the zombies. You got testimony from different witnesses, a freaking lolly time email, all this stuff of one thing. And then she comes out in an allocution and doesn't speak of any of it. Like it doesn't even exist because it never did. It was role play. It was something that Lori and Chad and Alex and the rest of these crazy ass people wanted to pretend. It was a role playing game. She is sitting now, her last statement in sentencing, and saying nothing about light and dark spirits, or that Tylee was a zombie. No, she's saying Tylee was in all this pain and all she ever saw was Tylee in pain, and she just basically is given a reason for why she took her out, which is it's so pathetic, y'all. I never stopped worrying about her, says Lori. One of the times that Tylee came to me as a spirit after she died, she said she commanded me, and she said to me, "Stop worrying, Mom. We are fine." Why didn't Lori say one of the times that Tylee came to me, it was so good because we'd gotten rid of the zombie there, and Tylee's free now to go on to her next probation. No, she doesn't bring up any of it. She doesn't bring up that son of a bitch, Chad Daybell. The first time JJ visited me after he passed away, he put his arm around me and he said to me, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom. I love you and I know you love me every minute of my life." Folks, the whole evidentiary packet that's going to be sent to an appellate judge is going to show quite clearly through evidence on text messages, different people that testified, Zulema, Melanie Gibb, I don't give a shit about them, but they brought out in the evidence, and the jury believed it, that all Lori talked about was how much of a pain in the ass it was to take care of JJ. Or that JJ was acting differently, that JJ was a zombie. Does she bring any of that? Does she say one word about Tylee or JJ having an evil spirit in them at one time and they had to cast that out? No. Now she's trying to put a light on it that JJ, he's come to me after he died. Nobody was murdered, but he's come to me. She brings nothing up about, well, I'm just so glad that we got that zombie out of JJ. Now JJ, when he came to me, he could say those things to me. Give me a break. The evidence shows quite clearly the disdain that Lori and Chad and Alex and, too many kids crap. The whole thing. And yet she's coming out in an allocution with a totally different story. Even if it was a totally different story, she could have added sprinkles of what was proven in a court of law just to back her up a little bit. She could have come out and said, "Zombies, I just believe Chad, and I just wanted to believe that, but now that JJ's gone, because there was no murder, I know there was no zombies in JJ." Give me a break, y'all. JJ Joshua Jackson was an adult spirit, and he was very, very tall. When he put his arm around me, he is busy. He is engaged. He has jobs that he does there, and he's happy where he is. His life was short, but JJ's life was meaningful. JJ's life was meaningful, and in a court of law, the evidence proved quite clearly that JJ's life didn't mean shit to this damn hussy. That's what I want to point out when it comes to past statements. The appellate court is going to look at the whole record. They're going to look at this transcript. They're going to look at her allocution, and they're going to say, where the hell? We see evidence in the trial, because we're looking at the transcript, says the appellate court, of everything she said. Is Tylee at zero yet? Is JJ at zero yet? Does she bring that up? Does she try to make everybody understand in the allocution that she believed in this light and dark scale shit? She doesn't bring up Chad. She doesn't bring up zombies. She doesn't bring up the dark canes or anything. It's all about the icing on the cake of her trying to get across that she's still a nut job, so that one of these appellate issues will sit a little wrong with an appellate judge, which, by the way, it won't, because they're going to say, we see the proof in her trial. Why isn't it being echoed in her allocution? My eternal friend Tammy Daybell has visited me on several occasions. She came to bring me peace and comfort. And I know that she's extremely busy helping her family, especially her children and grandchildren. And I have a great love for Tammy. And has that been proven at all in Lori's trial? The entire transcript of every damn thing that was ever said or done. Any healthy inference, any kind of circumstantial evidence and direct evidence that Lori loved Tammy Daybell. There is no way that an appellate judge or judges is going to look at this and say, you know what, she was led wrong by Chad Daybell. He had her believing in all this stuff. But, we're just going to forget the fact that she speaks of none of it in her allocution. That would have been the evidence that she should have been put back in the mental institute there. If she would have in her allocution said, I believed this stuff, I believed in Chad, I believed my kids were zombies, I believed that, Tammy was Viola, and that Julie Rose damn spirit was knocking on the door. My beautiful children, Tylee, Ashlyn, and Joshua Jackson, rest safely this day in the arms of Jesus. And that's probably the only, that shows you she's about herself, because I believe that. But she just leaves out the fact that she snuffed out their freaking life. They are in the arms of Jesus, in my view. My wonderful friend Tammy Daybell rests safely this day in the arms of Jesus. And I look forward to the day when we are all reunited and I too will rest in the arms of my Jesus. And I don't know about that. I don't know what's going to happen with her. I don't know if she's going to get to a place where she can truly, remorsefully, sincerely confess with her mouth, and the Lord is faithful and just to cleanse her of that. I'm not speaking for her, but I will say this. Her allocution is a past statement. It is part of the record of an appellate court. And the bottom line, y'all, when it comes to echoes of Jody Hillebrand or Ruby Frank, the things that they're going to put together on their past statements, how that's going to look to them, and this allocution of Lori the hussy, the bottom line is it don't add up. It don't add up for Lori to get an appeal. In terms of winning an appeal. And Jody and Ruby there, actions and words. But actions do speak louder than words. But words, those past statements, will come back to haunt all of them. Make no mistake. Lori the hussy, as she said all this stuff, not only to ease her own conscience through her own narcissism, because it wasn't about making anyone else feel better about what happened. She has come up with new experiences and things that were never talked about. Do you and I think that when she was at Melanie Gibbs talking about, I just told the bishop I was going to murder Joseph Ryan if he didn't give me a temple recommend, and she talks about being the warrior beyond the millennia, that if that experience with her sister Stacey and all this other shit happened, she would have been talking about it. It would have been brought out. She is evil, diabolical. She wants everyone to think she's still crazy so that she can win that appeal. That is my opinion. So, with that said, leave your comments. Let me know of some of the statements that we know are part of the record of the hussy that's going to come back to bite her while she tries to win an appeal. I love you all. We'll get back together this weekend and keep on looking.